Welcome to Hort Culture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture. Welcome to Hort Culture, where we have an episode before the episode where we are like, oh no, this is content. And we yell, Brett yells at Ray, this is content. This is content. Roll. Let's go. Let's do it.
I was channeling a LA content creator, just flying off the handle.
If we don't do that, we forget what we said before, or we're like, did we say it on the show, or did we say it before? Was it captured?
Well, what happens is, imagine my frustration working with these people. Where Ray and Alexis have this fully formed, extremely pleasant and well thought out, like well informed and experience based conversation about the topic that we're talking about, and none of it was captured. You know, I turn it on before this thing comes on. I am a tyrant. When the red light goes on, the podcast starts. I am.
Let's go.
I'm just the nice, smooth voice guy that all you all tune in to
honestly
listen to.
Hate him outside this episode. So, you know, if it wasn't for that smooth voice, he wouldn't even be here.
Like I'm a monster. I'm a monster on set.
His professional.
No, Ray will be like, "Oh, I said that reminded me of this extremely cool thing that I was just reflecting back on past, present, and future, and it's really interesting for our audience."
And we're all
Ray, that's content. Be quiet.
Don't
say anything to me unless we can figure out a way to monetize it.
Yeah,
please.
We need to. This is
by monetize
minutes
it,
on
we
the
mean
podcast.
make zero money from this podcast. So
it's minutes for us. Minutes of recording. Nobody told you, Brett, that we do
They've
not.
Been saying that the check's coming for like over 2 years now.
2.5 years. Yeah. We've been going for 2.5 years, haven't we? Yeah. We don't want to go down that road, but. Yeah, almost.
I haven't even looked at how many episodes lately we've done.
We're on season 3, like episode 20-some now. So, yeah.
I know. Thank you all for being here. Those of you who've been with us since the beginning. Look at us. We're going to have to do some celebration. Maybe we'll get some swag.
Yeah, this is as you said, the last episode 119.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Pretty good.
Well, that's pretty awesome. And I did not have a question, as I usually do at the beginning of these episodes. But what that means is we're going to talk about some cool stuff. And we're going to talk about some of my favorite things, which is weather data. Because we're going
to say snacks, but I digress.
Yeah, but I do love snacks. But I'm very full of snacks right now, actually. Been a snacking machine, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about.
I mean, some people call that lunch. You may call it snacking, whichever, Alexis.
The thing that's interesting about being a snacking machine is that you fuel it to snack with snacks.
Yes, it's the snake eating itself, which is a snack.
That's the interesting. It's like a perpetual motion. We've closed the loop on that.
Yes, it's like the machine that generates its own
sustainability
energy.
Is all it is. Closing the loop, making this more sustainable lifestyle.
We are sort of like snack machine. I mean, some of us are like snack machines. I guess we're just we're snacking to get to the next snack mainly. Like,
maybe
give me my energy.
Just have to have snack swag.
Under the meaning of life at the very end of the end, that's going to be on the quote. It's like, we are all snacking machines. Yes.
I feel like that maybe that's what I'll have put on my tombstone, like bring snacks. Man.
We come from snacks into snacks we shall return.
It'll be weird though to have like Cheetos at your your place of rest. It'll be strange. Like, here's your nabs.
I just expect people to just like leave bags of chips at my
or then maybe they will use that as a snacking place.
Here lies Alexis. She snacked while she could.
Yes. She fell off a bridge on an accident.
I mean, I think that would be cool. Like,
actually, I do want to start with a little bit of a question, or a little bit of a, and this is a little bit of a darker question, but you mentioned the gravestone thing. Do you all have? I was just thinking about my dad. Died a couple years ago, and we had his funeral, and we had some lovely flowers from Wild Roots from Alexis. We had and other people sent houseplants and other things like that. And it's just like one of those big moments where like it's marked by, in this case, flowers. And I'm curious if you all have, but other people sent houseplants and little like dish gardens actually, and there's that was February of 2024, and they're still alive, still rocking. Kept them alive, despite it being like 5 different plants with like different care recommendations and
Cultural
water
requirements.
requirements. But I'm trying to think of like non-traditional event things that are marked with those kind of horticultural gifts.
Well, the horticultural gifts. I mean, I think of weddings and like celebrations, and when I was
Mm.
at Berea College, we had one of the things I did was manage like a live plant route, and I got tired of, watering fig trees and things, ficus and all of that stuff. But
Mm.
I mean, just
Wait, what did you just say you were doing at
Berea,
water?
there was a live plant route where you had to go around and maintain, like, there were rental plants and different businesses there at Berea, and
Oh,
we would make sure to
I
take
don't know
care
anything
of the.
about this.
Yeah, that was a while back. It was
It
a
was
few
one of his
years ago.
many, many lives
But
that
Wow.
Tackett has
very
led.
interesting. But I mean, it's like you said, when there was an event or something that the college was hosting primarily, but also external events, we would have live plants that were rented, like ferns and ficus and things
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
that, like base plants that we
Mhm.
would then deliver. So it was more of a celebration in that case.
Mm.
That's what I think of when I think of plants,
I
and
feel like when
weddings, things like that.
people buy like their first home, that's like a nice like little gift is like they're a plant. I don't know. Maybe that's
Mm.
just me, but as a plant person, I feel like you asking Ray and I that is like that's our love
So,
language, right? Is
yeah,
giving
it's like,
people
yeah, you're
plants
gonna
and
Yeah.
get a
flowers. So
plant.
I'm like every event is a
Well,
plant
an
for us.
angle on that is this. I will bounce it right back to you guys. Do you guys have generational plants in your families? Like plant material that's generational?
No.
No,
Yeah.
I know that,
I mean,
like, for
some
unfortunately.
families
instance,
do.
Christmas cactus is like a classic example that there's a lot of, passing down, and you'll have this
Oh,
Christmas
yeah.
cactus that's gotten bigger, and there's a cutting that somebody took from somebody.
Yeah.
But no, like my grandfather, and to some extent one of my uncles, both of whom have died, were kind of like the main plant people in our
Mhm.
family, and it was actually kind of touching. So my aunts came to visit. It's been several months ago, but came to visit and saw all of our plants in all of the places that they are, inside the house, outside the house, and was like, "Oh, I'm so glad that somebody in the family continued on with some of the plant
Yeah.
side of things." My aunt might have some kind of a generational house plant, but
You know,
not that
and I,
there's any
and
lore about.
think about as I'm walking in the woods, and I always love finding old home sites. And one of the things that marks those is like the daffodils or whatever.
Daffodils.
Mm.
And I love seeing, and then I start looking around very carefully for any remaining, like an old pear tree. Like pear trees can withstand more abuse than any other like fruit tree in Kentucky. Like it's the one that will live without most any care. But I'll start looking for the old pear trees. I'll look for daffodils, and sometimes you'll find that like the prickly pears. I don't know how they
Mm.
make it, but I mean these old home sites in the woods, and I think about those plantings. And your question makes me think about that scenario as well, and I love finding those things when I'm looking around.
We had a hydrangea that we gave to friend of the pod, Emily Spencer and Dylan Spencer, when
Mhm.
their son Cliff was born.
Mhm.
So they were able to plant a little hydrangea, and well, I actually planted it just to. I was like, "Do you want me to go ahead and plant it like a psycho instead of just leaving it with
while I,
them?"
while I'm
Um,
here.
yeah, but I think that idea is cool. And my homies from the CCD squad sent us or got us a witch hazel. Actually, the 1 year
Oh,
anniversary
nice.
of my dad dying, and I planted
Mhm.
that. And so there's this like lasting thing that exists in the space. I don't know. I think it's just
Yes.
a cool idea. And now that we're
Mm.
past
Yeah.
Mother's Day and past
Mm.
Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
don't forget about the horticultural gift, the world of horticultural gifts.
Yeah.
Um,
I
there's
love
like this
plants to
lull.
mark a time. Yeah, I think that's so I love that. Giving somebody a tree and their new home or a shrub or something like that. Big fan of that. And I plant stuff for like memorial because I love the idea of saying like, "Oh, I planted that when, we got our
Yeah.
dog or whatever." I it's a like a timeline. You see how that
Mhm.
goes. And it's really cool now that we've been at our farm for this will be the 5th year, and the plants I put in very small that were actually cuttings that a friend gave me and like grew up and rooted for me off of so, some plants from campus that I was very attached to as a horticulture student and helped plant them. And so then she gave me cuttings of those, and now they're outside and they're pretty large now in their fifth season. They've really started to take off, and it's so cool to see how big they are, and knowing where they came from
I
is just.
love going to where places I've lived and looking at plants that I've planted, like trees that I've planted
Mhm.
or my family's planted. I do it all the time. It's because I'm strange, but like I'll go past like everywhere as I've lived, I've planted plants, and I'll go and just check them out and see if they're still there. Projects that I've done over time, and it's really interesting. And somebody said, if you use a memorial tree or something or get a plant, isn't that kind of sad? Like when the thing dies, and I had to think real quick. I was like, no, that just shows that life is fleeting and we all have our season. So no, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I think this is a completely impromptu or non sequitur, but I have a new joke that I came across. It's not related to plants, but I've been telling everybody it, and so I'd like to tell you all the joke if that's okay with you.
You need to,
Yeah.
Brett. This is an invitation.
It's
You
short.
need
It's
to.
short, and I'm wearing a possum shirt for this podcast, and it's a possum joke. So there's this guy, and he calls up animal control. He says, I just found 3 possums in a suitcase." And the dispatcher says, well, can you tell? Like, are they moving? He said, "Well, I don't know, but that would explain the suitcase."
That was that's good. That's really good. Yes.
I I don't know
Very
what it is
witty.
about it
Very
that brings
witty.
me so much joy. It's
Very
fun, it's playful, it's not
it
like
slips in.
cringily stupid,
It slips in. Yeah, no, that's a very smart kind of British style humor.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yes.
like a good joke
it
that makes me
is.
go, "Wait,
Well, and
what?
half
Wait.
the room
Oh!"
misses it, and half the room is laughing hysterically. It's like it divides the crowd immediately.
I can
It
never
does.
remember funny jokes. Someone told me a funny joke yesterday, and it was like an adorable, like, joke you would tell a kid and get a good laugh out of. No idea what it was even about at this point. Like, but
Mm,
I know I laughed pretty hard. So
yeah,
apparently the laughter just takes the memory away. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, kids I love when kids tell jokes that don't make any sense at all, but they find it really funny, and then I also find it really funny. Like, that's one of my favorite,
It's funny
jokes.
because it's not to the point to where it's not so much. So
Usually, I
yeah.
feel like if it's a boy telling the joke, usually they just say poop and then they start to
Mm.
laugh. Like they're
And
like,
then that's
"What?"
good enough. Good
They
enough.
ask you a question and you're like, "Oh, I don't know. What is it?" And they go, "Poop." And then they and then they start laughing.
Now,
And
to
then
be
you're like,
fair,
"Okay."
Alexis, you are an adult girl, and I have heard you do the same thing. So I don't know about this whole boy,
Poop.
Yeah.
this
Run
whole
away.
boy
I am
idea.
just trying to pawn it off
People who
Levity
aren't
is
me,
my love
on
sometimes people who
language.
Ray's
aren't me
son,
tell jokes and
basically.
they're just like poop. It's not me. It's not me who's doing that. It's other people who.
He's into the smart
Well,
humor.
I'm curious. You piqued my interest, Alexis, on the plants coming from cuttings. The friend was new extension member Sherry Dutton.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a
Yeah, she's
queen! Amazing, one of
she
the great plant whisperers of the our lives.
honestly though, I always tell people like I mean, I went to college and I learned what the books had to say, but she actually taught me how to be a horticulturist. So, taught me
Mm.
everything I know is what I always tell people, and she goes, "Oh, stop it." And I'm like, "It's true though."
We'll
But
have to
yeah,
get her on the
anytime she
pod. But what did she get? What did she get you?
Yeah. Well, anytime she pruned something back, a lot of the time there not always, there's always a rule of thumb, but there's a lot of the times when you would go to prune something in your landscape, and these are all landscape plants, it's a proper time of year to also use those as cuttings and root them out. And so not everything can be rooted at the same time. So,
Hmm.
conifers or woody shrubs versus herbaceous shrubs, they can't just any time of the year, you can't just go take a cutting and expect to root it because the hormones are different in there. And so, but a lot of that coincides when you would normally prune, she would do that. So she took cuttings for me. One thing I'm very excited about and I feel like skyrocketed. She took cuttings of a big smoke bush when she hacked it
Mm.
down because it was enormous, like 25-foot tall and way too big for the area it was in at the time. And so she needed to hack it back, and she took cuttings from that for me and rooted them. And so I have 3 that I planted 5 years ago, and they were little, just like quart pots. I mean, good, well rooted plants, but nothing crazy. They might have been a foot tall or something at the time. And I actually just cut them back for like cut flower production. And because they were about 15, they're about 15 foot tall. I just cut them back to about
Whoa.
10 foot tall. So in 5 years, and they took off. They like where they're at. So that was such a cool moment, and I got to send her a picture and be like, look what I harvested." But
They
a little
marked
bit of
time, didn't
everything.
they? They
Huh?
marked time. You said you
Yeah,
watched
they
them grow,
mark
but
time.
I always look for those things in my life that mark time. I mean, like they say, kids and gardens. I heard that when I was very young, and it's so true that
Mhm,
like gardens being just filled full of annual plants for the most part. But it's like you said, it's really cool when you have perennials. And
mhm,
then especially those that you kind of cultivated or nurtured like from the very beginning. So
mhm,
it's no surprise to me that like there's a tradition like at graveyards and stuff like that that are just full of memorial plants that may have been purchased and put out. Like it's no surprise to me that these things mark, and we've mentioned it before on the show, they mark cycles, they mark friendships, they mark time in general. It's just so super cool. And we've talked about the seasonality of a lot of plants here in Kentucky zone, 6AB. We've got all the seasons here, so they mark the seasons too with a lot of plants that we deal with. So I think it's just no surprise to me that like they're so cool in marking things. For me personally,
Do
it's
you
just
do
kind
you
of one
have
of those
anything that
things.
comes to mind of like a particular? I'm thinking more in the particular plant versus the specific plant versus the general.
Yeah.
Do you
Okay.
have any particular trees or plants or
Let's
anything like that for
see.
you?
Well, on my wife's side, I've mentioned it before. She's got, I don't know, it's going on the fourth generation. It's an old fashioned orange amaryllis that everybody on her side of the family has, and I have it. And she put it under my care when we first met and got married. When we first got married, and said, "If you mess this up, we're messed up." And I was like, "Oh, 10-4." So I think about that plant, which is doing very well, by the way. I've spread it all over to spread the risk. But I think about that plant being in her family for generations. Someone in the war brought it over from a tropical
Wow.
region. But I think about that plant. And I also think about like lilacs that my mother loved, that her mother loved. So the lilacs that I have growing at the side of my house right now are going on the third generation. It's just old fashioned fragrant lilacs. And, they're going on their third generation. So yeah, I can think of several examples of generational plants that I have now currently, because each one of those tells kind of a cool story, and I
Mhm.
love that. Yeah.
You think about that person, like,
Yes.
even if they didn't give it to you, if it's like a representation of them, I think. My
Yeah.
I have my one of my best friends. She so her mother always made sweet tea. She always had sweet tea growing up, and had made it in the cast iron skillet. She had not the cast iron skillet, but she had a specific tea pan that she made it in. And like that was something that she got as an heirloom when her mother passed away, and she was really close to her.
Mm.
But that smell of sweet tea, we found a there's a garden rose that to her smells just like her
Mm.
mother's like ice sweet tea. I think it's a David Austin rose called like Teasing Georgia, I think is what it's called.
Mm.
And it's just a pretty buttery gold color, and it's a beautiful rose, but it really does have the smell of sweet tea. And so she named it after her mom. Like, she, in her mind, she knows that the name is Teasing Georgia, but she calls it her mom's name, and that's her mom's rose, and it makes her think of her. So every time it blooms and she smells that, even if she's not even looking at it,
Yeah.
the waft of that, and it takes her back to her mom making tea in her tea pan. And that's just such a cool it's a cool thing. Like, when you smell those lilacs, it probably takes you back to,
It's a sensory thing, and it's, the
yeah.
smell, and, like, I love your story because I think once you bring in, like, the sensory things,
Mm,
especially smell, when I catch that smell when they bloom, I mean, it's a strong association I have, just
mhm.
like your story. I mean, and
Sue,
it's
that's
pretty
the name of the
pretty
rose. She goes,
powerful.
"Oh, Sue's blooming,"
Yeah,
and that was her
yeah,
mom's name, but "Oh,
yeah.
Sue" is what
Yeah.
she says.
Brett, do you have
Um,
any of those kind of sensory kind of plants? We started talking. I know you're into bonsai and things. That takes a few generations, potentially,
just a
several,
few.
maybe hundreds, whatever.
Yeah, the trees I might care remind me of the generations 400 years ago that took care of
Yeah,
them. No, I
there
don't
you
have
go.
any. That's all very
Mm,
new to my world.
yeah,
I was trying to think because there's some like so what you all a little bit of what you're talking about is like specific trees or I mean specific plants that you all have or this cultivar that for this reason reminds this person of her
yeah,
mom.
yeah, yeah.
I think there's also there's sometimes where like there's certain people that you associate with like a particular plant type or
Sure.
like that like you know for
Mhm.
instance this isn't true but like my grandma makes me think of roses or
Oh,
my and Annie's family has that way more than I would say than my family generally does. I'm trying to think my dad was an only child, my mom's one of six, so it would probably be on my mom's side that there would be a lot of that association. But if, for Annie,
yeah.
for instance, her grandmother, there's like this strong association with pussy willows.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that is. Like, and I don't think they know why. It's just either she liked it or she would always have one, or maybe there was some tradition that came with that. And I associate lilacs with Annie's mother.
Mm.
That she's really, and she's from New Jersey, born and raised, and she calls them lilacs.
Mm.
It's like Lilock.
And it just stuck,
Lilac.
that association, for whatever reason. It just got
Yeah.
locked in at some
And
point.
Mhm.
we have lilacs in our backyard, and we haven't figured out a good spot for a pussy willow that we wanted to put in, um, but I don't necessarily. I'm striking out here on really associating a particular plant with particular people. Maybe
I
this is
guess
why this is me being exposed as not a true plant person like you all.
I don't think
My
that's true.
Yeah, my grandmother, I always associate gladiolus with her, like my mother's
Mm.
mom, because, if you're as a kid, they're very identifiable, Glad is, and I specifically remember that she had them plant they had a brick house, and I remember that she had all the different colors planted up against the brick house, and so, you had these big spikes of color, and I don't
Oh, yeah.
necessarily think that I don't know if they were her favorite, they were just something to plant, like, I don't think it was maybe
Hmm.
necessarily anything special, but it takes me back to my childhood, playing in the yard, seeing those colors, and
Mhm.
so they've become one of my favorite flowers just because, they remind me of her and I
Hmm.
dug into them. So yeah. And that my other grandmother loved azaleas and she had a big one outside in New York and she had a huge one outside her bedroom window so that she could look at it uh, every day when it was in bloom. So
There was an
she liked it.
azalea, a big azalea at the Henry or the Lexington Cemetery. And the
Mm.
flowers were so bright that they would legit, like, almost hurt my eyes, and you would, like that feeling when you stare at a TV or something, and then you look away and you can see, like, the shadow stuff, that was how
Mhm.
it was, and Annie was freaking out, she's like, "Just look at it and then look away from it," and I was like, "I don't wanna do that, it's making me feel weird, I don't like this." It was, like,
The
Like it almost
glow.
glows in
crazy
the
bright.
dark.
Yes, like, so
Mm.
neon, it's such at the peak. Your story about the gladiolas reminded me of so my dad was an only child, and his mom, he was very close to his mom, and so my brother and I were her only grandkids, and she would like, I would go over to her house when I was a kid, like young, 6, 7, 8 years old, and she and I would drive and go to a garden center in the spring, and we would pick up uh, a couple packs of geraniums and
Mm.
a couple bags of mulch. And then I would spend the next, what felt at the time like 8 to 12 hours. It probably was like maybe an hour and a half with, 15, 10-minute breaks somehow fit in there. And I remember like she would like make over, and I would plant these for her and then mulch it out in the front of her house. And she always really liked those. But I can remember thinking like, she was very effusive with praise, like very giving of praise, and
Mm.
um, I remember the way that she would talk about it, like, oh, you should have seen him out there working, and you should have seen him just planting all that. He just doesn't stop. And I remember like being like a kid and being like, yeah, I actually don't stop.
I'm kind of the best. Thanks, Grandma.
Yeah, basically, I'm ready to take on whatever problem you have. As long as I can take a
So that's where
snack
your
break
attitude comes from.
That's correct. Yeah,
Let's
this
go. Let's go.
massively inflated
Grandma
ego and
Wolf.
overblown sense of self. Thank you, Grandma. Virginia Woolf was her name. Thank you,
Shut up.
Virginia
That's a
Virginia
Woolf.
great name.
Wolf. Wow.
Yeah,
That's a strong name. My goodness. Virginia Wolf.
and her husband's name was Irvin, and my dad's name was Bruce. Bruce Wolf, and I always asked him, what did people call you when you were a kid? Like, he was like, I don't, Bruce. I'm like, oh God, like calling a little kid Bruce, it seems really weird.
Unless you're
It's a
Wayne,
cop's name.
it'd
It's
be
a cop's
weird.
name with a big old mustache, Bruce.
Yeah,
So.
like that's a name that
There
you
you
could
go.
use after 40, but before then,
Yeah. It's like, what's up, B?
Or
B
if
doesn't
you're a
quite get it.
shark
Yeah.
in a cartoon movie.
Bruce. Yes.
you could also do that. Yep.
My name is Bruce.
So do you all have particular, or Ray? Do you have like this person is lavender in my mind, or that's like I don't know if this is a floral
Yeah.
synesthesia or what, but
You mentioned like mother and father. My mom is just easy. That's creeping phlox, and dad is tobacco. But the smell and the days in
man,
the sun on the
yeah.
farm, it's really easy. I mean, I have very strong associations for each one of those.
Mm,
But my mom just loved creeping phlox. That was one of her favorites. She loved flowers overall, and she every year had us plant. Her and dad's like, "You're taking up farming space," and she's like, "There's got to be space for my flowers." And so they compromised, and she won
mm,
every year. But she loved her flowers, but creeping phlox were her favorite. And dad was
Good taste.
and tobacco can be very ornamental. Okay,
oh
it has
yeah.
a very pretty
Mhm.
bloom. Abyssina
Nicotiana
does.
is a
Yeah,
cut flower
beautiful. Yeah,
species.
related. So yeah, I do have strong associations for those things, and it's just more than associations. It's just triggers. Once again, it's not necessarily in either one of those cases. It's not a smell or anything. It's just what I associate with the family.
Mm,
Uh,
that's
growing
awesome.
up. And anytime, I don't know, and I've told you guys this before, anytime we go on vacation, the first thing I'd want to do is go out. If somebody says, "Oh, let's go to the beach," I'm like, "Let's go to Hunting Island," because they have natural palm trees that just fall over on the beach and I'm not allowed to touch them. I can go see things in its natural state. So
Mm,
I'm always that plant life guy. And my friends make fun of me that I hike with. They're like, we're out there seeing what a cool rattlesnake we just found, or toad or salamander in the Smokies. And I'm over there, looking at some, arcane herb plant, some forb or something over there. And they kind of give me a hard time for it because I'm always finding things to kind of look at in the plant world. I enjoy
aw.
it. Yeah.
That would be good. Like meme real content would be going on a hike with
They're
Ray.
like, dude, you almost stepped on a copperhead. And I'm like, where is right? It's really cool. It's next to this whatever plant I'm looking at
On
the
my way
time.
to these ephemerals.
Yeah,
Well,
there you go.
I'm
It's
using that as
bloodroot
an
or maple.
excuse to stop to breathe. I'm like, "Oh yeah, look at this cool plant over here."
Yeah, yeah. I do that as well. Yeah,
It
especially
smells
at
really
high
good.
dosage.
Sorry, I'm looking at the moss over here and I'm
Oh
like
my
quietly
gosh, this
dying.
moss is beautiful. Yes. Look at this. It's reindeer moss is amazing.
So
Yeah.
here's a difficult question, a sort
Ooh,
of
I think I know what it is.
existential challenge to you. Um, what if what would you say is the plant that people would associate with you? So
Mhm.
the creeping phlox is your mother, Ray. Well, what is Ray? Does Ray have a plant associated with him? And if not, what is your aspirational plant that you're going to make it your mission henceforth? Like from this day, this is the first day of the rest of your life to
No,
build an association with that plant.
if
Which
I was a
what would it be?
dog, maybe a Labrador. So I guess the going over into the plant world, something that would be similar would be like a maple, maybe. Hopefully, you kind of don't do anything spectacularly well. You're just a generalist by nature. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm poison ivy. Maybe I'm a survivor. I
Well, I
don't
mean,
know.
it could just be that people remember your abundant joy about the thing, and maybe I
Maybe
don't.
I'm
Maybe
a
you have an
sunset maple.
undiscovered passion for maples that we don't know
Yeah.
about, or it could be like just what's something that you love, or that you get really excited about.
Do you want to know what I would plant for you if I didn't know any of the
See, that's
any
the
Oh
of your
key
man,
is to ask
yes,
somebody
I
else
would
what
love
we
to hear
are.
this.
Yeah.
yeah. The first thing that came to mind, and I usually just go with my gut on these things because if I overthink it, I'll never make a decision. But
Shoot.
when you asked Ray that question, the plant that immediately came to my mind that I was like, if I wanted to honor Ray, I would plant a serviceberry.
Oh, that's
Oh,
one of my favorites. I grew up with those. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
Serviceberry. That's a good
em,
one.
I just it was
Emelancier, is that the
Amelanker or
uh-huh.
Amelancier. Depends on
Mhm.
who you are and what
Emily
bonsai.
told me that
Emelancier is
we need a Latin expert, and she happened to study Latin when she was younger. So there we go,
well,
We had a
Latin
person
pronunciation expert.
at Berea College that, oh my goodness, I guess he traced his lineage all the way back to Linnaeus, and he told us that on the first day. But he was so particular, and if we mispronounced anything, not according to his own designs, we were in big trouble.
it's
Yeah,
a dead language,
Yeah, Emily,
so
it's a dead
you
language.
can it can be what
Man,
you
you
want.
just
Yeah,
triggered her so bad. I am
I know I'm
so
gonna get a
happy to
text
hear the
message
fallout.
later. How dare you?
I'm so happy to hear the
I
fallout
didn't
from
say it's
this.
not important or not awesome. I just said nobody alive actually who spoke it
Damn.
fluently actually
Oh, she's
knows.
gonna let you have
it's
it. She's
kind
gonna
of like
let you have it.
Sanskrit. It's a
That's
dead
okay.
language, hardly ever
That's
spoken
okay.
anymore.
I will send her a kitten photo in response and cool her down.
It's gonna be very fun for me.
So I want to know what bread is, Alexis. I mean, this is like shaking the 8 ball when you were in seventh grade and you
Mm.
would look for answers in the 8 ball and you would shake it. So we're shaking the 8 ball. What is Brett Wolf? Be
Well,
Wolf.
why do I have to come up with it? So,
You don't
um,
have
Because you had such a
to.
strong reaction.
immediate response is a conifer. Second,
Mm.
I wanted to go. I'm kind of leaning towards like an Atlas blue cedar
Oh.
personally, but that's because that's I'm not as familiar with my conifers as I should be. I just have like
Mm.
an image of what I think, and that
Wow.
one
That's a
is
nice one.
one I enjoy and I'm very familiar with. So
Yeah,
you're welcome. I
nice.
don't know.
Mm.
I mean, it's hard to come up
What
with
about
the
you?
evergreens in
What about you,
Kentucky.
Ray?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do
As
you
far
think
as
he would
what?
be? What plant do you think he would be?
He would have to be, well, an
It
evergreen.
doesn't
You
have to
took
be a tree.
mine. I mean,
I
the
am blushing right
underrepresented
now
would
with
be
you
like
guys saying conifer and
Eastern
evergreen.
red cedar because
Mm.
I happen to
Yeah,
be a
I
huge
almost went
fan
with
of
like
those.
Virginia pine, but I
I
thought
mean,
I love
this
Virginia pine. I think they're underappreciated.
Mm.
they are, and I grew up with the Virginias and the black pines, but I mean, I would say Eastern red cedar, another tree near and dear to my heart because it's a survivor. It's the only one, the only evergreen that I know that truly does well in Kentucky. Uh, but it's just kind of underappreciated for its genius and survivability. So
Pioneer species.
yeah, it's a early successionary species.
Hmm.
That is correct. You take
Brett, what
advantage of a
would you want to
situation where
be?
there's a vacuum.
I would love to be a Eastern red cedar or an Atlas blue cedar. Those are those are great options. I really like pine trees. I feel some sort of deep affinity
Mhm.
with them. But as you mentioned, like as far as planting that, most of those planting them in our central Kentucky soils wouldn't be necessarily the vibe. Um,
So if
yeah,
you live somewhere else and want to honor
Mercy.
Brett,
Yeah.
Have you ever went far
Well,
south or far north and you just felt this positive vibration from all the evergreens?
honestly, yes. And there's also this
Oh,
stretch.
we need to hear more about this. Actually,
There's this. Well, there was this stretch of eastern white pines planted not far from my house. Emphasis on was. Uh,
yeah,
Please, I love them. Please don't put eastern white pines in the ground. Um,
white pine decline.
that doesn't end well, unfortunately. But I remember there was this like moment I was out for a walk and I came around the corner and I just caught this huge whiff of pine resin, pine sap.
Mm.
oh, that's the best.
And it
Absolutely
was
the
like a
best.
warm, kind of a warm day, like one of those first warm days of when the buds are just starting to kind of push out, and man, it was like a very. It's probably been 6 years ago. I still remember that when it happened. But yeah, when I cross into areas that have higher up in elevation or further north or south, as you say, I do have kind of like a positive moment of like,
Mm. I
yeah.
do love that smell though, Brett, or a big grove, big stand of evergreens and getting under
Mhm.
there. And one of my favorite things in the world is like when it's snowing out and getting under
Mhm.
evergreens and watching the woods fill up with snow while that's and the smell. And once again, it adds that kind of layer, that strength of smell with the association. So if you could go north or south, which way would you go as far as plants?
Me?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're
North.
talking evergreens, so you can go either direction and get
I
a
would go
different
north.
flavor.
I would go
North,
north.
gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. There is
Yeah.
a huge diversity up north, so yeah, can't go wrong with that.
And yeah, I feel like there's more like it's a little more of an unsung regional hero in some ways. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm off base on that. Um, yeah, for me, it's definitely like the less explored part of the botanical landscape.
Mhm.
But what about let's see, for Ray, I still haven't really gotten over the blue side of the mountain
Mm.
reference. And so I think I Adelgid notwithstanding, I would think about a hemlock
Yeah,
as a
that's a good
Ray
one.
tribute.
Mhm.
Oh, I'll
Mhm.
take that any day of the week. I'm a big fan of hemlocks. I'm a big fan of the terrain in which hemlocks grow because that's the mysterious side of the mountain. The
Mm.
hemlocks are, yeah, that's in the ravines and where the sun sets real early in the
I
evenings.
love the
That's where
silvery undersides, like, when
oh
they're
yeah.
waving in the wind.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's good stuff. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take
For
that. I was
Alexis,
gonna say, now Alexis, she's
I
worried.
don't-
Look at the nervousness on her face. She's like, "Oh gosh,
No, I've
I'm
I-
already
gonna."
come up with what I think I am, but I wanna hear what
okay.
you all
That
think.
doesn't
No.
count. That
You
doesn't
won't.
count.
You will
No, I
not
can't
sway
Okay,
me.
I
you
You
go
will
will,
first.
unlike the
I
hemlocks, you will not sway me with your winds.
Nice.
I think that I would want a witch hazel,
Mm.
Hamamelis virginiana
Yeah,
Mm.
as my plant.
amazing. That's a good one.
Yeah. I
I love
almost said
those.
9 bark, Physocarpus, because right now I'm
Yeah,
picking it and I just love it so much.
Yeah.
Viburnum would not be a bad one, but I think
very
Hamamelis would
diverse.
be she's my
Wow.
Witch
girl.
hazel's a good one. Yeah, that's
You're
also got
you're
those in the
you're
family graveyard.
choosing. You guys are you're choosing like uh smaller stature things than I would associate with you.
Mm. Well, I
I
would
think of you
associate a smaller
as a
stature
titan.
plant with I guess Alexis. I mean, no,
Oh,
no,
What'd you
no,
say?
no,
yo,
no, no.
boom,
Literally,
smaller
I
stature,
mean,
short.
we were talking spring ephemerals, and I guess I've come to associate like bloodroot with like or mayapple
Mm.
with Alexis, both of which I grew up with. I mean, and I'm not saying
I'll take
bloodroot
blood rube.
because if
It's
you
metal.
apply, I mean, it's a good one. And when it blooms, it's a very beautiful little plant. But
Yeah, I think I would go. I'm caught between two, and there's different reasons, but I'm caught between like maybe a sycamore
mm,
Mm.
and a American beech.
My favorite tree.
Yeah. Well,
beach is a
because
good one.
both of them, like the branch structure of a mature sycamore is
Tree of
magically
Gondor. It's
magically
magical.
insane,
Yeah, it is. It is
and
the
that's
tree of
kind of
Gondor.
Insane.
how I would describe,
Magically insane.
brilliant, amazing, inspiring, a little wild, and you
little
always
little unsure.
little wild. And you can always kind of tell from from a distance, the bark,
Mhm.
you're like, "Oh,
Mm,
okay. I know what that is." And look at the
I know
yeah,
what that's
okay.
about.
Yeah. The beech, on the other hand, it's I think an underappreciated hardwood species in Kentucky. I really love the leaves. I love the leaves through
Mhm.
all of their iterations, and it hangs on to those leaves through the winter, which
They're
Yeah.
little
feels
ghosties in the woods.
It's
yeah.
that solid brown color, and you can hear them just rattling with the breeze. Yeah.
Hmm. And so I think if I were
Spooky.
there, I would, and
Spooky.
I like the sycamore because it has such giant leaves, which is fun. I think I would have those two in mind, and then like in honor of Alexis, I would say based on site selection, which one's going to
Right
thrive
tree,
here.
right place. Woo, woo, woo,
Yes,
woo.
exactly. Be like,
I
okay,
I have
where's
never
my
been
site?
so honored.
I've called both of those trees, Brett, like fairy trees, because they don't look of this world. If you find a good example of either one, and maybe it's the light colored bark on those,
Yes.
but they yeah, very very Lord of the Rings
I
on
appreciate
both
this
of
like
those.
mysticism you guys are giving me.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling
Well, the thing
very
is, I don't think you even understand it. That's the
I
part.
don't
Like
apparently.
it's not put on. It's not.
It's
There's
provocative.
something hard. Yeah, exactly. Nobody
Gets the
knows
people
what it
going.
means.
I make everyone a little uncomfortable when I enter a room.
Mhm.
It's a like a spark or like and you have a hard time
No.
you have a hard time defining the elements that cause it. It's like more the gestalt, as we might say in the art critic world that I spend a lot of time in. Um,
No.
but yeah, man, a hemlock and
Yeah, I like
an
hemlocks a lot.
American beech, man. And
We got to
what did
do
we say?
Jessica. She's
Oh
out
yeah,
on
an
leave,
eastern
but
red cedar.
I feel like we need to do Jessica. Jessica, if you're listening while you're on leave,
I could
we're
see
not
Jessica
forgetting
as like a
about you.
walnut.
Yeah, she will
Okay.
drop something on your car and break things if you yes. As you're driving along a country road, watch out, here comes Jessica.
Provide, there's like
Your
an
provider,
element of
yeah.
provision. There's an element of like a high value,
Mm.
and
Yeah. It's a
again
utility
some
tree.
cool branch structure in a different way.
Mhm.
I would
I'm just a
go
tree person. You all are more the maybe and
I
you all know her much
I
better
would
than I.
go with a Buckeye. That would be
Ooh,
that's my instant
what color
Jessica because it's
flowers?
like
Mm.
well I would say the pink because it's a little extra special. Jessica's a
Mm,
she's
she
a little
is
extra special,
a
so
little
she's
extra
got a little
special.
something extra to provide and to
I would
just
call the pink flowered dogwood, or I mean chestnut. I mean, golly,
You named some
Buckeye.
good ones. You named some good ones, yeah.
yeah,
Brett loses his
all
mind
good.
and then free associates just tree names. I would call both that and Jessica very extra special, not just a
Oh
little.
yeah,
Yep.
I'm
Let
trying
it
not to
let
give
it
it too
go
big
on
of a head.
record that Alexis said just a little extra special.
Just
I'm
a little
sorry.
extra special.
I picked a really great tree for her. I'm pretty
You
sure
did.
she is
What about
not
what
offended.
about like a shrub? You gave yourself
Mm,
shrub.
I just give myself shrubs. Give Jessica a
You're not
shrub.
allowed to say
Mhm.
pyracanthic because that is off the table.
Mm. If I had to give Jessica, if you were a shrub, what shrub would you be? Probably a viburnum of some kind because
Oh yeah.
beautiful, classic,
Mm.
just all around, like throw whatever at it. She's got it.
Pluses up
I mean,
almost every situation.
Yeah.
yeah, every situation it just hangs in there and looks great. That's you, Jessica. She's not even gonna listen to this episode.
She's like, I don't care.
She's these
She
people
has
are
been texting
purpose
me
driven.
about she's going to be trying to convert her taxus to some more like kind of a structured cloud pruning kind
Mm,
of vibe, and
that's
she
Oh,
sent me a
awesome.
nice.
picture and I was like, basically you can do anything to this and it will be
Just
fine.
chunk right into it.
But
That's
here's what
awesome.
I would do, and kind of send her some pictures. So it's going to be, I told her I'd come out and prune with her sometime. I don't like when I make other offers to other people. I think she did not believe that I was actually making an offer, but I was like, just let me know.
That's because we aren't used to people having like free time. So we don't
Mhm.
it's
Mm.
like it's not that she believes you wouldn't do it. It's that she's like he doesn't have free time to spare and you're like, "No, I have free time to
I'll
share
make
with
that
other
time for you,
people."
baby.
A passion and free time, so win-win. Win-win.
Oh, I like, you know what? I'm so glad we didn't start talking about weather data, even though I really love weather data. I really love this conversation more.
This
Mm-hmm.
is an
Um,
episode that defined itself. We started in one direction with a plan and ended up totally in a different spot when we actually started talking through the episode. So yeah,
Yeah.
and
Well,
and there's interesting themes emerging here. And Brett kind of mentioned like the way we're thinking about plants, because then we're finding out that some of us are more tree people, some of us are specifically more evergreen, some may be spring ephemeral, some may be shrubby kind of. I don't know. It's the themes I'm learning about you guys, yeah, your preferences and things too. So yeah, pretty cool.
so maybe
Pretty
we
cool.
can close really briefly with it doesn't have to be the best, just a horticultural gift that you received. It could be a plant, could be a tool, could be any number of things that you received that really just sticks out.
Um, I received a little watering can that specifically had the really long, thin nozzle on it
Mm.
to more easily water my plants, like my house plants specifically. Actually, Jessica gave that to me many years ago.
Such a viburnum
And
thing to do.
it's a viburnum thing to do. And you know what? It just like was one of those things that I love a good useful gift. It was both
Mm.
like super useful. I've used that for everything. I take it with me on all kinds of things, and installs and all kinds of great stuff. But it is just like such a handy little thing. It's the perfect size, has the perfect little
Mm.
spout on it. So I don't know. I've gotten a lot of cool stuff, but for some that one I use constantly. So
That's a really good one.
just
Yeah,
simple.
sneaky. Yeah. You never know. It doesn't have to be a big thing.
You don't know
Yeah.
you
It
need it
doesn't have to
until
be a
you use
plant.
one and you're like,
Yeah.
this is so much better than like a
Yeah.
milk jug or
You
whatever the
can
heck I was
actually get
using.
down in the canopy and not get it
Yeah.
wet. It's amazing.
I'm not
Yeah.
like putting water all over the
Yeah,
floor.
you're watering everything but the base of the plant. Yes. So good. What about you, Brett?
Well, you go next. Do you not have one?
Let's see. I mean, it's kind of obtuse, but I guess one of the, first things I can remember ever getting and remembering was from my father, and it was just the gift of like there was a little, when you plowed around benches in the mountain and you planted tobacco, there was, in the corners, it was hard to get, anything but a mule into to cultivate those. You couldn't get a tractor into. So he gave me the little swag, I called it. It was my
Mm.
own little patch of tobacco. Cut it and he housed it separately for me. And I was probably 10 years old and I brought in this crop of tobacco and I learned very early you can make money from plants.
Mm.
And that was, kind of a profound thing for me and sparked my love of money. No, it sparked my love of, of
It's their Gordon Gecko origin
yeah,
story.
yes,
Greed is
my
good.
understanding that you could, like, instead of moving wealth from point A to point B, you could actually create wealth through the land, and the plants represented that. But it was sort of a horticultural gift, I guess. He let me have this little, it's couldn't be used for much else, and I remember that, and that was kind of cool. That, and it was just all about the plants, and I was just beginning to understand, and he was giving me more responsibility. 9, 10 years old, instead of just dropping tobacco sticks and, for the workers on the farm, I actually got to have my own little crop. So yeah, I remember
Aw.
that. Sort of a horticultural gift, but a little different. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned the witch hazel that my coworkers from the CCD gave me for my dad's anniversary, but I'll mention another one just to bonus content for our listeners out there. So when Annie and I moved into our house in 2015, sorry, no, 2014, and the front yard and backyard were just all grass. There was, a couple of the trees that are still there, and just all grass. And now it is mostly not grass.
Mhm.
But that whole journey, and one that I, recommend to people, when Annie and I talked about the garden evolution in a previous episode that I think a lot of people could probably relate to if they're living in suburban areas. All of that started with, we created one bed, all the landscaping that we did, one bed, and our friend Neil Wilson gave us some river oats and some milkweed and some blazing
Aw.
star and some other stuff that he
All
had
good.
started, and were in like tree flats. So they had really deep root structure, or really deep developed roots, which allowed them to take off like crazy. Year two, it was basically like year 3 or 4 in normal planting. And that really, it anchored that. A lot of those, some of those plants are more vigorous than others, and so some of them have taken a step back. But that area like was the anchor point, I would say, from which all of the other landscaping and approach that we did kind of has sprung into that gift of those things, that not only did he give them to us, but he had started them and taken care of them and then gave them to us. Was a really important horticultural gift that we got once upon a time.
Kind of was
Aw.
the
Is it that front?
genesis of a process. Yeah.
Yeah. I love
It's
that
in the
we
back, yeah, underneath by the
Mhm.
dogwood, just on the near
And
the
that started that whole conversion sort
yeah.
of lawn to,
Yeah,
this
like,
this
"Oh,
very
man, these
intricate
things are
planting. Yeah.
bulletproof. Cool. Let's
this
Yeah.
use
seems
some
like
natives
so
to
much
really
less
anchor
work
things."
and it's
Yeah.
pretty.
And it's amazing when you have success with something like that. What a motivator that is. And I've
Mhm.
seen it spark so much in people, and it can't be underestimated that when you get a plant and the weather cooperates with you, or it was just the right plant at the right time, the right place, whatever the case, when they're successful, I mean, it's like sometimes can be a light switch. It could be a
Definitely.
waterfall moment. So it's sort of what you're talking about. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
only ever really done gardening, like, edible stuff and a couple of
Yeah.
annuals here and there, but that was like, "Okay, we can do this. We can put in some perennials, and
Yeah, the
look
good
at
thing
us
about the
now."
perennials, you don't have to can or preserve the stuff.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's exactly
there's
right.
not
My
this
house does not
secondary
s
work process. Yes.
got this milkweed, and now my house is full of steam. Nope.
Yes, it's
Or
full
it's
of
more
gallons
about
of
the enjoyment of the nature than
yeah,
the
Yeah.
uh
a different form. Yeah,
mhm.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, well,
What a
great.
cute
Well,
little
we maybe
episode.
have inspired you to give some horticulture things as gifts, or maybe that's just an inspiration to go, you know what? That reminds me that my grandfather used to have this plant. I would like to plant some of that for him. And every time you see it or smell it or eat it or whatever it is that you plant, you'll think about a good moment in your life. And I think that's such a cool way to have memories. We can put photos on the wall. We can do a lot of lovely things like that. But it's just another way to incorporate history and happy moments, hopefully, in your life, or happy memories. But anyways, we appreciate you being here, even though we changed topic, and hopefully you hung on with us and you were like, I thought we were talking about weather. But there's always weather, right?
I don't know if they will know that. Like, I think that we only mentioned it
You
once,
just told them, Alexis, again.
yeah, so we
But
had
I
a
told them
completely
how
different
excited
point.
I was. I've told them twice how excited I was, but now
Yeah.
I'm like in my feels about it. So,
Don't be
okay,
in your
sorry.
ego, but yeah. Well, I just think, like, I don't even know if anyone but us knew that we were gonna do that. We might have mentioned it briefly. I'm trying to
Just at the
remember
beginning.
now. We just
I
look
did
we
at the beginning
sound
of the episode.
insane.
I was like, we're going
Oh,
to talk about this. And then we were like, let's talk about
just kidding.
blah, 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 blah,
Let's
blah.
change gears.
Proof that we do this with what we feel, with what is seasonal, and just what vibes with us. So I feel like
Intuitive
that
podcasting.
intuitive, honest podcasting, right? Well, we thank you guys for being with us today. If you want to contact us, reach out to us via email in the show notes. You can also follow us on Instagram at Horticulture Podcast. Leave us 5 stars. That would be lovely. Tell us what plant you are in the comments. Tell us what plant you are, or tell us what plant you think someone else is. What do you think bread is? Do we agree with the conifers? What about Ray? What are we thinking there? So feel free to reach out if you all have any questions. But we're just really glad you were here with us today. And we hope that you have a great one. See ya.